Welcome back to This He's Taken, where I'm your host, Rob Miranda. I got a Zoom call for us today. Returning guest, Kyle Clifford, host of Date Night
Yes,
podcast now.
sir.
Thanks for coming on, Kyle. You've been on before at the very beginning of this year. I think the last movie we talked about was for Creed 3. Still
Mhm.
probably my top five favorite new movies of all time this year so far. How you been
Yep.
feeling about movies this year? Like how compared to last year, I think it's a little bit weaker than last year's. What do you think?
I was looking back actually because I have a list on Letterboxd of my 2022 releases, and I have to say I think there are like the top echelon of movies was better in 2022, but I think there's a better middle piece in 2023. There's more mid-budget movies that are a little more funny, a little more entertaining than the
Yeah.
2022 releases. I feel like the big budget movies were banging last year, and the Banshees of Inisherin, The Menu, Tar, they were all everything ever
Top
all at once. They're all
Gun. Yeah.
fantastic. Yeah, Top Gun, like all those big movies were much better than the big movies we've gotten this year. But I think there's more meat this year than last.
Well, a lot of the big movies this year are flopping. And like
Yeah.
specifically The Flash and a handful of other ones like Ant-Man was supposed to be bigger than what it was. It is a big like superhero movie. Do you think we're at a downhill spiral for superhero movies?
I am. Let me get out of the way. I'm an apologist for superhero movies. I adore superhero movies. I'm a nerd in that way, but I do think the general public's appetite for superhero movies is in a rapid decline, mainly because the content they're pushing out just is not meeting the public's standards anymore. And with all these Disney Plus TV shows being added in, people just don't have time to sit there and watch 10 hours worth of TV, go see a 2.5 hour movie, and then watch YouTube videos trying to break that down because they don't understand what's really going on. And
Right, right.
I just feel like there's too much. There's not a high enough demand for the content they're shoving down our throats at this point.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the public's been pretty vocal. And even Kevin Feige came on and said, like, yeah, they've been focusing more on quality. I mean, quantity versus quality. And they are taking
Yeah.
steps to step back and try to fix that. But I don't know, ever since like Downey Jr., Chris Evans left, and I want like I'm really hopeful it's gonna come back and stay strong, but like I'm just not as excited anymore like this year, even maybe like towards
Yeah.
the end of last year. Besides, like, with the exception of Guardians, like of new movies coming out, like Blue Beetle or the Flash movies. Go back to the Flash. That movie was supposed to be the biggest movie ever, but then like DC has let me down so much. Like my expectations are low. And we're gonna be talking about Blue Beetle today, and I remember watching the trailers for it, and I was like, okay, it looks kind of cool. Like, and then a lot of movie TikTokers like go see early premieres and they're hyping it up really well. I was like, oh shit, like so this might be something real. And then I
Mhm.
go, this is like jumping forward to our review, but like I was just like all the hype for this, like I was kind of disappointed. And I think a lot of general not people were gonna agree with that. But
I purposefully stayed away from the when it comes to superhero movies, I stay as far away from reviews as possible, only
yeah.
because I feel like as a society, we have hyped these movies. We speak with such hyperbole that like everything is amazing, everything's fantastic, everything's the best movie ever made. And it's like there's no way we can release the best movie ever made 14 times a year, dude.
Yeah.
And all of these people talking about how amazing The Flash was, and Tom Cruise saying it's one of the best movies I've seen.
Yeah.
What the fuck did you watch, bro? How much did they pay
Yeah.
you to say that? Because no
Yeah.
chance, no chance. So I try very hard to not listen to that because it only makes my expectations go up. And you have to set the bar really, really low for a lot of superhero movies.
Well, it's kind of wild too because like comic book, like they're getting more accurate with the actual comic, the source material now, and you would think that would get me more excited. Like specifically the costumes, like we getting leaked Deadpool costumes, and those look amazing. Like this
Mm.
Blue Beetle costume leaked, I was hyped for it. It looked pretty cool. But just then it comes down to the writing, actual writing. I think I said this before about DC movies. Like I'm a huge fan of their animated movies. I think they're way better than their live action movies. Just the writing is different, but you can get away with a different kind of writing with animated versus making it real with like live people. And I feel
Right.
like sometimes they use the same animator writers to put it in this movie, and it's like it's not going to be the same. It's not going to be like the same meaning behind it versus like a cartoon kid talking about versus like an actual 12-year-old, because like 12-year-olds don't talk like that, you know? So like
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
just don't I don't know. I'm so nervous about like the future of superhero movies. This movie, I mean, this year in general, like I haven't really been too excited. The last one I was excited about was
Oppenheimer. Yeah,
obviously I wasn't too excited about it if I forgot
yeah.
about it. That was a great movie.
Oh man.
But the remaining of
Mhm.
the year, like I can only think of like Dune 2 that I'm really excited to watch.
Yeah, I'm actually, God, I haven't. So I actually only look 1 month ahead,
Hmm.
and I don't look at the movie release because there's this website. I can't remember. I think it's firstshowings.net. I think that's the website. And they break it down month to month what's coming out. And so on during the last week of each month, I look at the next month and see what's coming out. And I try very hard not to look more ahead than that, only so I can be excited for what's coming in the next month and not, be
Right.
chomping at the bit to see a movie that's not coming out until December.
I usually use Movie Insider for my like breakdown because like you said, it tells you all the movies that come out, not just the theater movies,
Mm-hmm.
but like smaller theaters as well, and as well as coming out on Netflix stuff like that. So that's a very good source for me. But we go to the movies all the time, and so we're watching trailers
Yeah.
all the time, and there's always like in the back of my mind like, oh, like let's just say like the new Star Wars is coming out 2 weeks. Like I know to expect that like coming out later this year, and I'll be excited for like a few months for it. But like this year, like no, it doesn't help how like the strikes are going on, everything's getting pushed back. So like
Right.
I talked last episode, like Gran Turismo like fucked up my schedule because that was supposed to come out last week. Um
Yeah, that fucked everyone's schedule up, man. That was crazy.
yeah. But let's just get off of movies just a quick sec because I want to talk about since the last time you've been on, your podcast has evolved a little bit. Before you did movie
Mm-hmm.
franchise, which is a great idea. I liked it a lot. You did Rocky and a couple other ones, and I know you were trying to figure out where to go with that direction. And then you started doing like special episodes called Date Night, and it was with your girlfriend, where you both go watch
Yep.
a movie in theaters and you just go talk about it. And I really liked that idea. It was really good. I thought it was pretty smart because there's nothing more classic on a date night than go to the movies.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
So you actually changed the podcast to revolve around that idea, and I loved it. With your girlfriend Cassidy, right,
Yep.
as your new co-host, which the two of you together are pretty
Yep.
funny. Honestly, I like enjoy listening to it.
Thank you.
Recently, you had a couple life changes too because you recently moved. You said in it.
Yep. Oh yeah. I'm in New Hampshire now.
And you moved away from AMC theaters, I think you told me, right?
Oh, yes. It killed me, man. It killed me to move because there were four AMC theaters within like 10 miles of my house.
Hmm.
And I was living in Virginia at the time. And there was a theater less than a mile away. So I would walk there and just stay there all day and then walk home
That's
and get
awesome.
dinner ready. And then Cass would come home and it was perfect. And now the closest theater I have to me is a Regal, an hour and 9 minutes away.
Oh, geez. Wow. What a big
Yeah.
difference. What theater
Yeah.
is that, you said?
It's a Regal Concord. That's the name of it.
I don't even know if I heard that kind of theater. Lately, I've been
Just a
expanding.
Regal cinema.
Lately, I've been expanding. I've been going to Cinemark a lot too, and different theaters. But
Yep.
I'm always gonna go to AMC. Um, so now we're gonna talk about the movie Blue Beetle in just a minute. But I also have you brought in a throwback movie that we're gonna be talking about. Um, Usually it's on theme of what we're talking about the first movie, and you picked like the best on brand theme movie we're gonna talk about, which is Suicide Squad, the 2021. It's the Suicide Squad actually. That
Yeah.
came out 2021, which was directed by James Gunn, and I'll get more into it in a minute, which is coincidental because since then James Gunn has become head of the DC universe. Like what I mean by that, he's kind of like Kevin Feige, and for those who don't know Kevin Feige, he's in charge of a lot of the movies and television shows that come out. He oversees everything and makes sure everything aligns better, and he decides, well, he helps decide which storylines to tell and stuff like that. So now James Gunn
Yeah.
is taking care of it because he had so much success with the Suicide Squad, and we've seen his work in the Guardians of the Galaxy. DC is taking a chance on him, and he's leading it. Now, the Blue Beetle movie is technically his first movie underneath his belt. Like the Flash just came out a couple years, weeks ago, months ago, and I remember walking out the theater, and some guy was talking about like James Gunn doesn't know what the hell he's doing. I was like, you can't really blame James Gunn. Like he was in office for like 2 weeks when this movie came out. Like he
Right.
probably had
Yeah.
nothing to do
And
with
they've been
that.
making this movie for 2 years. No, he had nothing to do with it. Nothing, nothing, nothing.
So Blue Beetle, like I'm sure was in production, probably finishing up production when he got the news. He got the higher ups, so I'm probably sure he had
Mhm.
some say in like the final cut and the marketing and stuff like that. And it doesn't help all the writer strike is still going on, so even the cast can't really promote it, which sucks because I'm sure like the premiere would have been sick with all the Latino actors in this movie.
Hell yeah.
Technically this is his first movie, but his real baby, his real firstborn, is going to be a Superman. We're going to see in a couple, maybe towards the end of next year if everything goes well,
Yep.
because he said filming is supposed to start in that movie in January. Now let's go back to Blue Beetle. Did you see this movie opening night?
No, I saw it Friday at like 3 in the afternoon.
Now everyone was hyping up this movie so much to the point where like they thought they were gonna have a like almost do better than the Flash, which wasn't too hard
Mhm.
actually. Um, so they thought they're gonna be better than the Flash, and everyone was hyping it up. Oh, they're so excited to see it, and no one showed up this weekend. I felt like I went to go see it opening night at 8 o'clock. Actually, it was an early premiere,
Yeah.
8 o'clock. There's maybe four other people in the whole theater, which is kind of like how it was in the
Dude,
Flash.
that's wild.
Yeah, it was pretty sad. I was like, I almost thought like, were we in the wrong theater almost? Because like usually superhero movies, like it's jam packed. And then
Absolutely.
the next superhero movie coming out is Captain Marvel. I really don't see it being any much too busier than it was for this one either.
No, I doubt it.
So, what was your theater? Well, before we go to your theater experience, because I know you said you had a story about it. Um, I'm a big fan of AMC popcorn, but not just AMC. Like Cinemark does it too. Like with they come with custom popcorn buckets, and this is probably my one of my top five of the year so far, where it's like a Blue Beetle like popcorn bucket, where it's like an actual beetle that you can stuff popcorn in. And there's like I think Cinemark is one you can make it even like a book bag almost. Do you
Oh
collect
wow.
stuff like that? Do you collect cool
I
popcorn
didn't even
buckets?
see it when I was there.
Oh, you go to a
Nope.
different theater now. They probably don't have it.
Yeah. Yeah. They have a popcorn bucket only because part of the story I'm going to tell later has something to do with that. But I collect the posters. I started doing that recently because at least at the AMC I used to go to, they would give away free posters every day. And so I would go there and I would just be like taking a bunch of them and be like, hell yeah. And then what was awkward though is I had to walk around the theater because I'd see like 3 movies a day. So I'd have to carry them from theater to theater and have like 4 posters under my arms.
Or like
It was
the
pretty, it was,
are they like the big movie posters they hang outside the doors and
yeah.
stuff like? Oh,
Oh,
really?
yeah.
I'm jealous. I asked AMC once if I can have one, but they said no. I was like, they give it to their employees, and like if whatever they don't get to their employees, they send back. I was like, I would. I told them I was willing to buy it off of them, but
Oh,
that
yeah.
sucks.
These are big ass posters, man. And I was like, are these like, how much do these cost? And the lady was like, free, please take them. We can't get rid of them. And I was like, I'm the guy, man.
Wow,
I'll take these. Yeah.
wow, that's pretty cool. I had this Miles Morales poster behind me, but like the only other poster I'm really dying to get is the menu. We talked about the menu. I really want that poster, but the
Oh, love that
specific
movie.
one, like I like the one with the casting, but I really want the one with just Anna Taylor-Joy on it. I think that's so pretty cool. Now, like I mentioned, like there's only like four people in my movie premiere. There was no one there. Like they even had a security guard because they thought they were gonna need it. Like so many people coming
Dude,
in.
what?
How was your theater experience? Was it busy? I know you said you went in the afternoon on a Friday night. What happened there?
Mhm. So I'm going to tell my story now, mainly because it partakes or pertains to how many people were there. So I did a hat trick yesterday. I watched 3 movies, and after my first movie, I had about 20 minutes before Blue Beetle started,
Real quick,
and it wasn't enough time to like.
real quick. What was the other two movies that you saw?
So I saw Strays, Blue
Okay.
Beetle, and then after that, to finish it out, I saw The Last Voyage of the Demeter.
You know what? Sidebar. I don't mind to know your story. That movie was kind of boring. Do you think that too?
So I thought the acting was electric. I cannot remember the
Yeah.
gentleman's name, but he was in Game of Thrones. It's something Cunningham. I know his last name's Cunningham. He was fantastic. The script is so boring and repetitive that those actors did the absolute best they could to try to salvage that movie, but it is so repetitive and boring that I was checking my watch. I have like an Apple Watch and I was checking it
Yeah.
every 20 minutes. I felt like, and it's a 2 hour movie, and I was like, yo, this needs to end now.
Yeah, yeah, because like you said, it was like they were picking off one by one. My biggest pet peeve of it was like, it was supposed to be a horror movie. Like, yeah, there was a couple good jump scares in there, but like they showed it's like this Dracula vampire human thing monster. They showed him too early. I felt like they didn't build suspense to it. Like
Yes.
I was like, you seen him in the first 45 minutes. I think I was like, you could have like built this, like just a shadowy figure. He's flying around. You could just see them shadows in the fog or something like that. They showed him too early. Like so, like there's no other build up after the 45 minutes. That was a
I
complete
could not
side.
agree more. And
Go
no,
ahead.
I like the sidebar because I read Dracula, the novel it's based on last year. And Dracula is very much so hidden in the shadows. The man almost never just like walks around and comes out like that. And in the movie, he's just there. Like he's just, or like people see him outright. That never happens in the
Yeah,
novel. He is always wandering in the shadows unless he is in his human form. But in this movie, they were like, oh, here's Dracula. And it's like, dude, you
yeah,
killed the only thing you had going for your movie in the first 30 minutes.
yeah. And to be
The
fair, like
suspense, man.
the whole movie was on one boat, so there's only so many
Yeah.
hiding places you can have. So I can see why. But it that you brought up the fact it's based on the book. It's actually based on one of the very first books that Dracula's ever mentioned, like one of his origin
Yep.
stories, like how he first started, which I didn't know that. I think they talked about that, like did a text before the movie. I could be wrong about that. But
No, they
I
did.
thought that was really cool. I was like, oh shit, this is like gonna be really thrilling. And it was just mid. I
Mhm.
think I saw your review on it. You get like 4 out of 5, like 3 out of 5 stars, something like that.
Two and a
And then
half out of five. It was
yeah,
just
even that was pretty
mediocre at
generous. But
best.
like you said, the acting
Yeah,
was
I
great. The cast was
yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
The
Agreed,
kid was kind
100%.
of like okay, but Strays you also said you mentioned. I haven't seen it yet. I'm gonna go see it Monday. Kind of looking forward to that one. Not like it's a serious movie, but like it's one just to get out, like just to enjoy, to make
Mm,
myself laugh.
absolutely.
Um, and because the Gran Turismo got pushed back, I think I bumped that off the list. Like it might come out as a bonus
Yeah.
episode, but we'll see. I'm sorry, I interrupted your story, but you're talking about the Blue Beetle
No, you're
premiere.
fine. Yeah. So I went to the theater about 20 minutes early and so I was just chilling. And this guy, he's cleaning. I asked if I could come in, and he was just sweeping the floor from the movie beforehand. And he's like, yeah, sure, come on in. So I sit there, and this kid and his dad come in. Now, this is a sidebar to the actual story, but this kid and his dad come in. I didn't see the popcorn bucket, but he had a cool popcorn bucket apparently. And the worker um comes around to them, and the kid goes, oh, that's my seat. And he goes, yeah, I'm just going to clean it off for you, buddy. And he's like, okay, but just know that's my seat. And this kid's going into third grade. I only know that because he tells his dad explicitly that later on. But he's young, and he's like giving this guy a hard time about his seat. And the guy goes, all right, you can sit down now. And I like your popcorn bucket. And the kid looks at him and goes, yeah, it's the Blue Beetle bucket, but I'm rich and you're poor. So that's why I
Whoa,
have it and you don't. And I was like, what the fuck is happening right now? I was like,
whoa.
this like 7-year-old kid is roasting this guy for no reason at all. And his dad is finally like, hey, just sit down. Don't be like that. And the guy got up, and the worker left. So it was just me and these two people. So it's me, the kid, and his dad. They're sitting 4 rows in front of me, and I can hear them clear as day. And the dad goes, hey, bud, I wanted to tell you something, and it's about your mom and I. And I
What?
immediately, my heart
What's
dropped.
going
I
on?
knew, I knew exactly what was coming. And I was like, why would you do this here? So he goes, your mom is a little mad at me right now. And he goes, yeah, mom is really mad at you. And he said, yeah, I did something dads aren't supposed to do. And so she is really mad at me. So I just wanted to let you know that I might have to leave the house for a little while, but that doesn't change how much I love you. And so the kid goes, Daddy, I love you. And my heart was like, okay, here we go. They're having a moment. This is nice. And the dad goes, I love you too, buddy. And just know that this was my fault. It has nothing to do with you. And we are going to work on it. And the kid's like, okay, Dad, can I have a soda? He's trying to like, guess he's like, I'm done with this conversation. Get me a
Yeah.
drink. And his dad goes, no, I got you the popcorn. Soda has a lot of sugar in it, and you really shouldn't be drinking it. And the kid goes, please, I just want one soda for my popcorn. I'm going to have a dry mouth. This kid was pretty smart for like a little
Yeah,
eighth
I was
grader
saying he heard
or
that
a
we're
little
divorced.
third grader.
He heard that they're breaking up, and he's gonna milk this divorce now.
Oh, for sure. And so the dad's just, he's telling him, no, you can't have soda. You can't have soda. And so finally, the kid said, the dad goes, so you're going into third grade this year, right? And the kid goes, yeah, I'm going into third grade. I'm excited. And he said, yeah, you're going to learn how to spell. And he's like, I guess I don't really know. So his dad starts asking him to spell a bunch of words like turtle, toilet, all these like random ass
He throws
words.
like with
And finally,
divorce and stuff like that. He was like,
yeah, yeah.
spell two
He's like,
Christmases.
can you spell PlayStation 5?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so the kid goes, "Dad, can I stop spelling now?" And his dad's like, "Oh, of course, buddy. Of course you can stop spelling." And the kid again goes, "Can I have a soda, please?" The dad says, "No, you can't have soda. It's not good for you." The kid turns to him, looks, and says, I quote, "Daddy, I think I know why mom's leaving you. You're no
Whoa.
fun." So,
Whoa.
so I mean, I was appalled. I wanted to leave. Like my stomach dropped out of my ass. I was like, I
Did
am
they
so
even know you were
uncomfortable.
in there?
I don't know. I was in the last row and they
Yeah.
were in like one of the middle rows. And I don't know if they saw me when they came in. And the dad immediately, I mean, as soon as the words came out of his son's mouth, he jumped out of his seat, left the theater, came back, 2 large sodas and 4 or 5 boxes of candy in his hand. And the kid, the whole movie, the kid was jacked. He was standing on his seat. He was jumping up and down. He was running up and down the aisle at one point.
Oh
At
my
one point, he
god.
got to the top of he got near the door and he goes, "Dad, I have to take a piss." And so he runs out the door by himself. And I was like, you brought this on yourself, man. Like you gave him 2 fucking full sodas, unlimited candy. Like I don't feel bad for you at all, dude.
No way. What a time to drop the
Yeah.
ball like that. And then like, all right, let's sit here and watch this 2 hour movie, not talk about it at all.
Right. Right. Like, hey man, your mom's divorcing me. I might have to move out. So let's watch Blue Beetle. Like, why would you do
Yeah.
that, man?
And now every time that kid's
Brutal.
gonna like see this movie in the future, he's gonna think about that. That was the time my dad told me they're ruining the
Yeah,
family. Wow. That is
exactly.
freaking
Yeah, dude.
wild.
It was wild. Other than that, there was about I would say 15 to 20 people in the theater that ended up showing up. And a couple that sat in the row in front of me. There were 2 seats in front of me, and they got into a fight because he refused to give her his phone. And so she stood up in the middle of the theater and said, "Fuck you. I'm fucking done with you." And left and then came back and sat 1 seat away from him. So there was an empty seat between them. And every so often she'd look over and glare at him. And I'm sitting directly behind them. And I was like, I just want to watch fucking Blue Beetle
This
without a
is,
family just falling apart in front of me, dude.
I
I'm
think
begging.
this is what you get for leaving AMC.
Yeah, for real. I was like, what the fuck is going on in this theater, man? It was wild.
Yeah, that is tough, dude. Like I've had a couple experiences where it's like someone makes a big scene like that, but it's not that often. I think the last one was for Into the Spider or Across the Spider Verse, and that was like at the second time I'd seen it already, so I wasn't too upset about it because I already knew what was happening. But yeah,
What
that shit.
happened?
I guess it was a jam packed theater, like all it was sold out, and then
Mhm.
I guess someone's kid was talking, and someone I don't know if some guy said this to him, but the dad got up and confronted this guy, saying like, "You told my kid to shut the fuck up." Blah blah blah. It was going back and forth for a good minute, and then someone else in the back was like, "Hey, take
Mhm.
that shit outside." And then the guy was yelling at him. It is a whole big thing. Like everyone was kind of like nervous and shit like that. And I was like,
That
this is a,
happened.
it was like it's a kids movie, dude.
It's a kids movie. What do you expect? Exactly. That happened at my exact same thing happened at my showing too. This guy's son, uh, he got up a few times, and this dude sitting, he was in my row, but a few seats down, and he's like, "Hey, corral your kid, man." And this
Damn.
dude who said it's like deep in his 40s, like he was balding, and it's like, "Why are you here? Don't be like that. It's a kids movie. It's not
Yeah,
made for you, okay?"
yeah.
And the dad stood up and he was like, he said something basically like, "We can take this outside." The dude didn't say anything back. The dad just sat back down and that was it. But like if you're going to a movie where kids are gonna be there, you just kind of have to expect kids are gonna
Right.
kid.
Yeah, that's how it was like with the Ninja Turtle movie. Like it happened again. Like those kids are loud, but you know what you're getting into. If you want to,
Exactly.
like fucking AMC does a thing where you can rent out a theater then and do that.
They literally, yeah, you can. It's on there. It's an option.
All right, so now I want to talk about Blue Beetle as a character for real quick. Before this movie ever announced, are you aware of the character Blue Beetle in the comics?
So peripherally, I am a big, 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 big fan of Booster Gold. He is one of my top 5 comic book characters of all time. And Booster Gold's best friend in the one of the 2010 runs. His best friend is the Blue Beetle.
Okay, I didn't know that. That's
So
pretty cool.
peripherally, yeah, I only know that much about him essentially. That he's friends with Booster Gold, and sometimes they have adventures, and they
Yeah,
had their own spin-off comic for a while, which was fun. But
all right, we might
other
see
than
him in a
that, I don't know
sequel.
jack shit about him. I'm
I
hoping so because he's got his own TV show coming out.
oh really on like HBO or something or like
Yeah,
CW or something.
I don't know. James Gunn just announced that Booster Gold's getting his own TV show, and I was like, "That's what I'm talking about. Start with these small characters and build the world around them first."
Yeah. And I'm glad you pointed that you just said that small characters. There was a time where Guardians, everyone thought Guardians was gonna flop because no one knew these characters and stuff like that. But
Mm-hmm.
it ended up being like one of the biggest successes of Marvel. I feel like James Gunn is trying to do the exact same thing with DC, but to me, I was like, the Guardians came out after like several movies. I was like, you're starting out the
Right.
gate with these with unknown characters. It kind of makes me very nervous. I was like, I don't know if it's gonna have the same luck you're planning on doing it because like they tried doing that with Suicide Squad. Yeah, it was a good movie, but like was it like one of the greatest movies, superhero movies? No. And we'll get
Yeah,
more into
agreed.
that when we get to that movie. But I'm just kind of nervous, like I see what you're trying to do, and I want to trust James Gunn. He knows what he's doing, but I mean, he's strong, starting out strong with Superman, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So we just got to wait and see what he does.
Exactly.
I first heard about Blue Beetle because I used to watch the animated show Young Justice, and he was introduced in there. Um,
Hmm.
but all of that, like, that's my only reference for him. Like, I never even thought about like, did he deserve his own movie? I knew he was a Latino hero, and that was like heavily marketed. Like, this is like this world's first super Latino movie.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, yeah, you have Miles Morales, but he's half black too. Um,
Right.
superhero movies. Like, did you guys forget about Spy Kids, dude?
Spy Kids. That's great.
So then, I heard some of the reviews about this. I was like, oh, like I finally feel represented in these superhero movies, blah blah blah. Like they talk just like my family, and they watch all the same shows we do. I was like, I I'm sure some households maybe look towards more LA, like they feel more representative, but like
Mm-hmm.
I'm honestly just tired of the stereotypical like Mexican households, like how they portrayed them, because like obviously like a lot of them, it's the hero. I mean, not the hero. The Mexican family is like just a struggling porn family who barely can get by and stuff like that. And it's usually only one person working, which is the dad. And I was
Right.
like, why can't you ever just show a Mexican like just getting by just fine? You know, like working at like a management job or
Yeah.
something. You know, like I
Right.
I I don't know. I'm just tired of seeing them start us at the bottom. You know, and working way up.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of
Right.
weird and picky for me to say, but I don't know. I didn't really feel represented in this because like we'll get more into it in a second, but like there's a lot of family speeches and stuff like that. Like who talks like this, you know?
Yeah, I get what you mean.
Before we get any more into it, I'm going to go over the direction and stuff like that. Directed by Angel Manuel Soto, written by, I am so bad with these names, especially Gareth Dunnett. I'm just going to start with Gareth Dunnett. And this movie is about an alien scarab chooses college graduate Jaime Reyes to be his symbiotic host, bestowing the teenager with a suit of armor that is capable of extraordinary, unpredictable powers, forever changing his destiny and becomes the superhero known as the Blue Beetle.
Does it actually say he's a teenager in there?
I was just gonna say that, like, it's just teenager. I was
Man's
like,
is 22.
exactly. It's like he's a college
Yeah.
graduate. He's got to be at least
Yeah.
22, 23.
Right.
Oh, first reaction. What did you think of the movie? Did you
Uh
is this something
so
would you
I
see again?
yes, absolutely I would watch it again.
Really?
Unlike The Flash, I would not watch The Flash again. And I defended The Flash to an extent, but I would watch this again. I would not watch it in theaters again. This would be something I'd wait until it's on HBO Max to watch again. Um, but man, I gotta tell you, I loved the family dynamic in this.
I think we're gonna have a good conversation because
Yeah.
I didn't. I felt like the family because there's a father, mother, grandmother, uncle, sister, and
Yep.
obviously the Blue Beetle. Um, I did not buy at all that this was like a real family. Like I could totally tell like these people met each other like the month before and started acting.
Oh man, I thought they did a great job portraying in a fun, lighthearted way for the most part a family dynamic because of course there are obviously the moments where they're like we're poor and we're going to lose the house, which is also just like a classic superhero trope that you're like of course they're
Yeah,
doing that because they do that in every fucking superhero movie.
yeah. So I
um
saw someone compare this
and
to Ant-Man, and like the way they compared it, it's so symmetrical, but like Ant-Man obviously did way better to it. Like holy shit, like it was that close to Ant-Man, and I didn't really think about it until now.
I didn't think that till you just said it, but I guess I could see it. um To me, I just thought that the lightheartedness of the family, because in these superhero movies, a lot of the time, the family's like upset that the kid's either running away all the time or because they don't know what's going on or they think they're getting into drugs or something. And in this, it felt like the family was in on it right from the start and they were willing to do whatever it took to help protect him and just protect the entire family.
Yeah, and
So I
I
thought
did
that
like
was nice.
that.
And it never got to the point where it was like, we're sad and we're poor and we're less than. It always seemed pretty jovial, even when they were talking about that. George Lopez's character was amazing at just making it
Yeah.
lighthearted and fun.
I didn't think I was gonna like his character in the trailer, but he probably ended up being my favorite part of this movie.
Me too. Hands down, George Lopez, he should have just been the Blue Beetle. The man is hilarious in this role. I'm not a big fan of George Lopez by any means. So seeing him in this, I was really upset because I don't like him.
Yeah.
And then watching this, I was like, that's my guy.
See,
That's my Blue Beetle right there.
I liked him. I love George Lopez, but I felt like he definitely peaked like in the early 2000s when his show was on. Because his stand-up material or his jokes or his TV shows, they don't ever evolve. They don't ever. It's all the same
Mm-hmm.
all the time. And
Mm-hmm.
then George Lopez, he got a couple of hate. He got hate a few maybe like a year or two ago now about him not supporting Latino actors and stuff like that. Like most of his
Oh, I didn't know
movies you
that.
see him in, he demands that he's like the only Latino actor in there apparently and stuff like that. Besides, with the
That's
exception of this
weird.
movie, and the only reason he's probably like that with this one is because they probably offered him a big ass paycheck.
Yeah.
So then, we'll talk about him, just him for right now. We're talking about like a handful of things. I had a problem with this character, like not because he was funny. He was definitely the comic relief in it, and I thought he was funny. Um, well, one, I hated that he wore shorts throughout the whole movie. I was like, I get it, you're going for like a
Yeah.
certain look, and I was like, you got chicken legs. Like, what are you doing, guy? Like, that's probably what he was
Dude,
going
I
for.
said I said the same thing when he was running in one scene. I was like, they need to get man pants because I don't want to look at those nasty ass chicken legs. He
Yeah.
has the thinnest, least healthy looking legs I've ever seen.
So then, when you first meet his character, he's a very paranoid conspiracy theorist, right? Kind of person.
Mm-hmm.
He thinks there's a freaking microphone in the balloon. Like he's that paranoid.
Yeah, that
The
was a bit
very,
much.
very next scene, he's dropping off his nephew at a job interview and he's honking the horn, hanging out the window. Like, what happened to being
Right.
incognito, dude? And then
In front of the like leading like their tech industry cord, like the people he's scared of most, and he's just out there making a scene. It's like, wouldn't you want to fly under the radar or not go at all, dude?
I feel like they could have given him a backstory that he didn't get in this movie because you don't even know what he did for work. Like you assumed he worked in the mechanic shop with his brother,
Mm-hmm.
because he's living with them and he can't really afford it. I was like, and then all of a sudden he knows how to do freaking fly a spaceship. Like where are you learning all your
Yeah.
how to do all this crap? And then I was like thinking they should have said like he worked for that company. I can't remember the company's name. Um,
Cord.
Korg. He could have said he was an ex-employee from Korg and he saw what was going on. So he like,
Right.
I got to get out of here. Like that could easily explain like his knowledge and technology, because now he's just freaking like I don't even know what he does for work. And like one of the first times you see his advances, like when they need to break back into Korg, like they need something to jam the signatures, like, oh, you need to do this and this and that. Like just so happens, coincidentally, I've been working on the same exact thing in my garage. I was like, what
Right.
for what, dude? What are you doing?
Yeah. Why are
I
you working on this, man?
I had such a big problem with that. I was like, he's trying to be like the guy in the chair kind of guy, which I would like to see him in there.
Yes.
That'd be pretty cool. But like, give me reason, like back up your source material. Like, what makes you deserve to be
Yep.
that character? I just was disappointed about that.
I think the grandmother got a better backstory than he did, for God's sake, because at
See,
least we know for a fact she was like a revolutionary in some other country, and you're like, okay, well that explains how she's able to use all these weapons. George Lopez gets behind this spaceship craft, and he's just like, let's go, and he takes off, and I was like, there's no chance he'd know how to work anything in that room.
he
No
knows like where
chance.
all the switches are and everything like that. Like, come on,
Yeah,
dude. He
it
knows
killed
how
me.
to work like the Blue Beetle's supercomputer and stuff like that. It's like, what are you doing, dude? And you
He
mentioned the
knows how to
grandma.
read the measurements on the blue beat. It's like the Blue Beetle's inside of Jaime's whatever his name is, uh his brain, and he's like
Yeah,
reading the scans. I'm like, I need a medical degree to do that, dude. Okay, come on.
you mentioned the grandmother right now. How did you feel about the grandmother?
I
I didn't really
She
care
was my
for
least favorite character, I think.
her. Yeah,
Yeah,
because I wish.
I thought adding in the fact she was a revolutionary was stupid. I didn't need that at all. She could have just been there for comedic relief occasionally. Like pop in, pop out kind of thing. She didn't need to be involved whatsoever.
I agree with that, but since she had as much screen time as she did, I felt like we should have got like more of a reason to connect with her, like show me like yeah she's a good caring grandmother, and you don't really get that in the moment anywhere. Instead, you just like she thinks she's just freaking crazy gun loaded grandmother who was just looking for an excuse to fucking go crazy and shit like that. I and she don't like because this is the only spoiler in it, like, but not really because it's part of almost every origin story. The dad dies, and she's like, "We gotta
Yes.
like not cry about this. We gotta go save freaking our grandson." I was like,
Yep.
"Who are you, dude? Like, what do you like this? You obviously aware that you're in a superhero movie, dude."
And then she's like, at the end, she's like, okay, as soon as they get everyone together, she's like, okay, now we can cry. It's like you've been holding on to that this entire time. Like you've been waiting for this exact moment to say that. I kind of liked that she did say, okay, let's cry later and
Yeah,
do this to help save him. But I also at the same time was like, we didn't need to revisit that later on and have her come out with this corny line that's like, now we can cry. Like they just you don't need to revisit that line. It's not
because like
important, and she is not that important of a character.
she really held in that emotion because like we got not now's the time for crying, and then again the giant spaceship, but she's all smiling. She's on a roller coaster. It's like, I guess you don't care. Your son
Yeah.
just died. No one even went to
Just
the ambulance
shot
to
and had a
check
heart
on him.
attack in
Like
front of you.
they just put him in the ambulance. Like,
Yeah.
yep, he's dead. There's no bringing him back. I was like, like he had a heart attack. You could definitely resuscitate him or do something.
Yeah. Or just like care. Like they didn't care at all. They just flashed to the next scene and it was like the next morning. And you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah. Um, the mother in this movie had zero involvement in this movie at all. She was just there,
Yeah.
and she had like trying
Yeah.
to have a moment, like have a moment with the main character towards the end of it. I was like, I didn't really buy it at all. Like you're just irrelevant. The sister in this movie, I was excited for the sister's character because like, oh shit, because I got a sister. Like I want to see how it's gonna be like with the Mexican sister. And
Mhm.
like like who talks like that again? You know, like just the weird jokes and comedy. She didn't deliver it well. I don't think they had too great chemistry, in my opinion. What about you?
I agree with you 100% that the sister didn't have good chemistry when she's not be I think when she's joking around with him, I was like, they're on two different planets. But when they try to get emotional, I think that decent chemistry when she's scared for him or they have an emotional moment in the tunnel when they reunite. But other than that, when she's joking around, it's insufferable. I actually don't
Yeah.
like
I feel like
that.
she just does not have a real life brother in real life. It's like there's no way you would talk like
Yeah.
this. Yeah.
Yeah, and I also don't like when people in movies say brother or sister to their significant or to their sibling, and they're like, "Hey, brother." I'm like, "Who? I have a sister. I've
Yeah.
never once walked up there and said, 'Hey, sis' or 'Hey, sister.' I've never said that, not once in my life." So, like, when I
Yeah.
hear people say that in movies, and I know it's just a dialogue choice and it's nitpicky, but it's like cringe city because I do have a sister, and I have only ever greeted her by punching her in the arm or being like, "What's up, fuckface?" You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I've never just been like, "Sister, how are you?" It's so weird.
Yeah, she just like overdid it with sarcasm and stuff like that. So when it was time for it to come like become an emotional scenes, like I just didn't buy it because like I just think you're an asshole now. The dad in this movie, let's talk about him now. He did he to me he felt like he was in a Disney movie with his acting. I thought like
I thought he was decent. At least he
his
was serviceable. He wasn't in it very long, so it didn't like impact the story. You just needed to know he had an emotional connection with his son,
yeah.
and I think they did a serviceable job with that.
And then he had like just cheesy dialogue. He's always giving speeches and stuff like that. Like one, they pointed it out in this movie, like when he's like, "Come on, we're the Reyes is like we've been through tougher. Like you're dealing with alien tech, you have no idea what's coming out. There's a little army coming after you." It was like, "What can you been through tougher?" And George Lopez even like, "We have." Like, what are you talking about, guy? Why would you say this right now?
That's what I love George Lopez in this movie for because he's the only one that feels to me with his dialogue that it might be realistic in a
Hmm.
way because he's like, "What are you even saying? These words don't make sense." And then they go have him build, a signal jamming contraption in his garage, which makes no sense. But those few moments where everyone else is in a Disney movie or in a Warner Brothers movie or whatever, he's the only one that feels like he's not occasionally.
Yeah, because I feel like he probably has the most experience out of the whole cast, like acting, so he kind of knows
Agreed.
how like plays a game a little bit. Especially because like he's playing a Latino uncle, which he's played the Latino dad his whole life, most of his life. So like
Yeah.
yeah, he probably has it down packed. Um, Jenny Cord, who's like the main female lead in this movie. when you first introduced to her, like she's obviously this boss chick she's kind of a badass. She's very important, stuff like that. I think to assert that in the movie, like we need to have you in a dominant stance when we first see you. And she's sitting on a couch with her wide, super wide. I was like, she just looks uncomfortable. Who sits like that in real life? Like, what are you doing? And they just made small choices like that throughout the whole movie with her. I was like, why? You don't need to do that. It's ridiculous. Her acting was just
I
okay.
didn't like. Is she the one that was in love with uh Jamie or Jaime or whoever you want to say it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't need that love story whatsoever.
Yeah, very felt very forced. I was like, you two
Very forced.
have nothing in common besides
Hmm.
this property of your company that's attached to him. But yet you're gonna fall in love
Hmm.
through like these 2-day events, if that. It's,
They never have a conversation where they get to know each other in any way.
exactly. You don't have that moment. I was like, oh, like I come from a rough childhood too, and stuff like that, or something tying them together. So that
I
relationship
guess
was
I guess
way forced.
there's the scene where they're in the bedroom and they like are talking about her mom or something. But I mean, that just feels out of nowhere. And
Yeah,
like as if it wasn't that it was um the Blue Beetle in the room with her. It could have been any person in that room with her, and she would have said that information because she was feeling vulnerable. It never felt like it was a connection to him that made her spill those emotions. You know what I mean? It would
right.
have been she has to get clothes for this guy, so she has to go in her dad's room. So she's gonna reminisce about her mom and her dad. So anybody who's in that situation would have heard that, in my opinion, at least. It wasn't like, oh, this guy and her have built such a close connection that she's gonna finally open up and say these things.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing that drew him to her actually that sparked like some kind of something in him was like when they first met, like she was getting scolded by the main villain in this movie. I can't think of it.
Susan Sarandon.
Thank you. Susan Sarandon.
Yep.
I'm not a fan of hers. She plays like the same character in almost everything I see her in. She's just like either like the evil bitch woman kind of person.
I've
But
seen like a
anyways,
handful of her movies and all forgettable, I think. I honestly, the name is very popular. It's very famous, but
yeah.
I don't think I've seen too many of her movies, if I'm being honest.
Like the first time we meet Jenny, like you see Susan like yelling at her and stuff like that, and this is how Reyes like steps in because it looks like she's gonna like physically hurt her. I have a problem with this scene specifically. It's been stuck in my head mentally the whole time. Like, and this is like a handful of problems throughout the whole movie, directing wise. He's sitting on the stairs, like in the next room, overhearing it.
Okay.
He's sitting on the stairs, listening to the conversation, and like the stairs has like a railing with like clear, like you can see like through the stairs, right? Like there's no wall or nothing like that. First of
Mhm.
all, like it pissed me off. I was like this with the like trying to peek through the like just look over. Like, what are you doing? And obviously it's in the next room because the next shot is him peeking around the corner, like looking what's going on. And then it goes back to them fighting, and then it goes back to him. He's on the stairs again, like looking like what does no one watch this and figure this out? Like it was just small stuff like that throughout the whole movie that didn't
Mhm.
make sense to me. Um and I want to talk about Cord, the company in general. Actually,
Okay.
let's go back a little bit towards the beginning of the movie. The movie opens up with Jaime coming from college. And the whole family's there to greet him and stuff like that, which is very sweet, cool, and stuff like that. Well, yeah, the biggest realistic thing in this movie is like you go to college, you get this big fancy degree, but you're fucking getting a shit job like right after that. Like that's the
Yeah.
most realistic thing.
Right, exactly.
Um, so he gets home. She's probably been gone for 4 years and stuff like that. And the family comes and tells me we gotta tell them the bad news and stuff like that. The bad news is his dad had a heart attack and he's been working less hours and they can't afford the mortgage because the landlord tripled the rent.
Mhm.
I hated that they threw that fact in there that the landlord tripled the rent because at the end of the movie the house gets destroyed, the whole neighborhood comes together, we got to fix up our homes. Like, why? You're renting that place, you don't own that place. Like, move, who cares? And I was like,
Oh man.
at the end of the movie, like they don't get any more money. You're still gonna lose that house. Like, and if anything, you're gonna have
Oh
less
yeah.
money because the dad died.
And Cord is fixing that house up for the owner, not you guys. And you
Well,
guys
Cord,
can't afford that house anymore because it's not like Blue Beetle makes money. You know what I mean?
I don't even think Cord offered to fix up the house. They give George Lopez a new truck. But my biggest thing, we'll talk about this towards the end. Like, I thought Jenny was gonna give him that abandoned mansion that she has just laying around that has
Right? Yeah,
all
good
the
point.
Blue Beetle equipment that he could use in the future. And she's like, nope, I'm just keeping
For
that for
real.
myself and letting it collect dust. I was like, I thought they were gonna give that house to them. I for sure thought that, but like, nope, you guys get to stay in a hotel while your freaking house is in ashes right now. I was like, what the
What
fuck? What?
pained
I mean, like he couldn't. He
what
could have
pained
just said
me,
that they were struggling for money and not need money for rent because they tripled it. I was like, because it made no sense to me. I was like,
right?
you didn't get any more money in the end. Like you're still gonna lose that house. It sounds like it's a hated thing to
Yeah.
say, but it was a stupid detail to throw in there.
What killed me was they're uh when Jaime has the Blue Beetle for the first time and it's destroying the house. I was like, dude, your security deposit's gone. Why do you give a shit? Just let him destroy this house. Take your stuff and go. That's what I kept thinking. I was like, just leave. Like, just go somewhere else, man.
And then I was like thinking, like the whole biggest reason like they love the house because they grew up in there. I was like, you guys grew up in this fucking house, and you guys didn't like pay it off, like rent to owner, like or made some kind of negotiation or something like that. Like no wonder the landlord tripled the rent.
Mm.
You've been living there for like 20 plus years.
20 plus years they've been living there. Exactly. Yeah. I just thought it was such a weird detail to throw in that the house was not like they were losing it. I get that you could say you're losing the house. Why would you say the landlord tripled the rent?
Because
Because
it's
you
just
would
the
lose
bank
that
was
anyway,
taking
even
it.
if your dad's yeah, and like, yeah, the bank's taking it, and like your dad, like him not working is already going to cause you to lose the house. You don't have to add in the fact that the rent tripled, and on top of that, um, fuck, I just lost my train of thought. I just had a train of thought. God damn it, I lost it. I can't remember what I was going to say.
Sorry, it's all right. And then Korg is this big company like who runs literally everything. They produce everything, and they're seen as the villains to
Mhm.
some Mexicans because like they're like kicking us all out. I was like, first of all, they're kind of probably employing more than half of you guys out there. Um, and then they're just seen as the villain, which is another reason why like it could have tied into George Lopez's character. Like he hates them because like he sees what's going on in there. Like maybe they're hurting the environment. We don't know. We don't know what they do other than the fact that they're trying to produce like a new weapon for police,
Right.
which is
Also, they
Russell.
didn't like show them gentrifying anything or like coming in and taking land or homes from anybody. They just started saying that. We had
Yeah,
no proof of that.
yeah. If
Oh, I remember
anything,
what I was gonna say. The community at the end when the house is destroyed and the community shows up
yeah.
to fix it. Is that supposed to be some sort of emotional payoff? Because you guys haven't talked about this community at
Uh-huh.
all. You've said, "Oh, we lived in the Keys, we lived in the Keys, we lived in the Keys," but you've never mentioned anyone in the Keys other than the fact that you have lived there your whole life. That's it. So we don't know any of these people. So when they show up to fix the house, I wanted to be like, who are these people, and why would they give a shit that
Yeah,
you
yeah.
need your
It-
house fixed?
It's like the
We've
whole
not talked
neighbor,
about them once.
like the whole neighborhood's there, and there's like 20 people there, if that. I was like,
Yes,
there's like two
yes. It was
households. Like, what are you
literally
talking about?
yeah, I thought it was funny when they said the whole neighborhood. It was like 6 people. I was like, okay, I guess that's a neighborhood.
Yeah, it's just small details like that was kind of ridiculous. We also learned the fact that this isn't the first Blue Beetle. Like Blue Beetle here was a legit
Mhm.
superhero back in the day that probably we assumed died in battle combat, but no one has heard of him besides George Lopez. I was like, if there was a superhero, I think I would fucking remember that. Even in a world of superheroes, like this is a superhero that lived in your
Right,
town. That
right.
that you would obviously it wasn't just like someone like fighting crime like a Batman or something like that. This guy had legit a freaking layer. Like he had different costumes. He had like gadgets. He had like a freaking spaceship with like
Mhm.
a giant blue beetle flying around. I was like, no one's ever gonna remember that. Like, you ever seen the movie the last new Ghostbusters with Paul Rudd?
Yeah, of course. Yep.
It's the same thing. Like none of the kids knew Ghostbusters exist. Like I think I would remember if a giant marshmallow man was walking through the city.
Right, right.
I
You would
just
remember that giant blue beetle flying through the sky somewhere. Someone would
exactly.
mention it.
Even
I
if it
also
was
thought it'd
like
be incredibly easy to connect him to the dead person who was him, because as soon as that guy dies, who's famous, he dies, and the blue beetle stops showing up. Just
yeah.
connect the dots.
And it also could have like been another point for Jaime and Jenny to connect because like, oh, you remind me so much of my dad, blah 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 in this costume. Like you could have had that talking point right there, but they missed it. And
Mhm.
because I think it was her dad, right, who was portrayed as Blue
Yep, it was her
Beetle.
dad.
I was like, And they had this whole secret lair, of course, like George Lopez. I know how to operate all this stuff, blah blah blah. I was like, come on, dude. And all these cool gadgets, and apparently, like, later we see like the family go rummaging through the guns and stuff like that. I was like, these cool ass weapons. I already know how I'm going to use this, blah blah blah. I was like, what the fuck, you guys? This is so rushed. It's unrealistic. Like, what are we doing here? The sister like decides to like make the Blue Beetle ship her own and graffiti it. She did.
Mhm.
I couldn't even read the word on it, but she did it like in 2
I didn't either.
seconds. I was like, you could have shown me like a background where she had like an artistic background, maybe that she could
Right.
like graffiti. Like you could throw that small detail in there. Like, yeah, like she's working these shitty jobs, but she really wants to be an artist or something like that. I would have bought that. She knew how to graffiti it instead of like it was this perfect graffiti, which she only had one spray can, but it has like 8 different colors in there. I was like, where did you even
I
get the
actually couldn't
spray
even
can?
see it.
Exactly.
I
I
couldn't
knew it.
see what it was or anything like that. I was like, why did you show us her spray painting and then not let us see it, man? I wanted to see what the fuck it said.
It was ridiculous. And then and like I said, like the house gets destroyed at the end. Obviously, the bad guy loses. Like I hated the main villain too. Like not the chick, but like her right hand man, like her muscle.
Oh,
His dialogue
it's
was
like
so
what was his
cringe.
name?
His
Yeah, he
dialogue
was a
was
bad actor too. I didn't like any. He was my least favorite part of the whole movie, actually.
I like his talking to her, and then Reyes was like he said it like 8 times in a row.
Carapax, that's his name.
Yeah, he said it like 8 times in a row, like you love your family too much or some shit like that. I was like, I get it, dude. Like, what?
Hmm.
Why do you keep saying it? I don't know. It was just this movie. Someone asked me how it was. I think I compared it to the first Shazam movie. Like the family dynamic was there. Like they had some good points. George Lopez was definitely the funniest thing about this movie, but overall, like
Absolutely.
realistic, like talking points. Like I'm. This is a movie. I don't think I'm gonna see any Halloween costumes of. I don't see any kids gonna buy the book bags for it. I think it's just forgettable. I don't think this movie's a flop.
Oh man, I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say it's a flop. I mean, it will flop. It's not going to make. It's not going to make its money back. I mean, we already know that. But I think it's a lot better than people will give it credit for. I mean, we have been dogging on it because there are some hard things in this movie, but I do think that the comedy, although it is like superhero comedy, it does work for the most part. I will say it's pretty funny. I think Sholo Mariduenas has this charm. He
Mhm.
plays Jaime. I think he has this charm and this raw charisma that if he can pull it together on screen as an actor, he'll have a great career. He just needs to evolve as an actor. He's not great, but he has the charm, the look, the charisma to do it. He just needs to. He reminds me of like a poor man's Tom Holland in Spider-Man: Homecoming, where he had like Tom Holland is just so cute, charming. He has all this like boyish humor, and I felt like Sholo, the actor, has those qualities, but just a shade lower than Tom Holland. And if he can evolve himself and as an actor, I think he has a great future ahead of him. And I'm excited to
Yeah,
see where Blue Beetle goes, mainly because of him.
but I think Tom Holland had underneath it, like more support. Like he had like Robert Downey Jr. to mentor and stuff like that on
Oh
and off
God, yeah.
screen.
Oh God, yeah.
So like he doesn't like who he has George Lopez, who's only done
Yeah.
television really. So I mean, he's just that he like you said, he's right there, but he's not really getting the tools that he needs. Um,
Agree 100% with that.
I don't think he was bad. We just dogged on this movie quite a bit. I want to talk about some of the good points of it. I really liked his costume in this movie. Um,
Loved it.
I don't think it was completely CGI because I seen costumes like offset on sets photos
Yep.
of him. Maybe the mask was CGI or something like that, but the costume itself was pretty cool. The Karen,
Yep.
not Karen, but like the voice inside his mask, can't remember her name.
Yep.
I it takes a lot of this movie borrows a lot from other superhero movies, which isn't necessarily a bad thing because there's been so many. You're obviously gonna have
Hmm.
run into some similarity. So like the voice in his head is kind of like Jarvis. Um, and I don't know, like just the way like it changed Heart, which it just shows their relationship, that they're bonding a little bit more. So that was kind of cool involvement. Um,
Hmm.
I think what I like most about this movie, it just focused on the movie. Like it wasn't set up for like the next 8 movies to come. It just stayed in its lane, and it didn't really.
Yes.
There's a couple name drops with Superman and Batman, but obviously it's a new Superman. We don't know which one, and there probably was more involvement because at one point I did hear an interview with George Lopez. He said he thinks Batman was in there, and they probably cut all that stuff out because rebooting the whole
Yep.
thing. This is the first movie confirmed in the new DCEU, and we're gonna obviously starting next year, we're gonna see more things, and this we're getting some confusing news. Like Gal Gadot was part of the old one, but she's in talks with a third movie. Like, how is this gonna be? If they're gonna recast it, or they're gonna restart it all over again? I don't know what's gonna happen in the future, but this movie specifically, how did you feel about it being like? Was it's Iron Man, the first movie to kick off a brand new universe? Do you think it was like
Yeah.
a good start to it?
Yes, because there was no stepping stone towards a larger universe other than a couple name drops. It felt very much so like, I mean, it was a pretty typical origin story, is what it was. But I liked that because it was encapsulated in its own origin story. It didn't give a rat's ass about anything that was going on in the universe. Like in Marvel, every single movie has to reference nowadays. It has to reference another movie or another event, and everything is like, oh, well, when the snap happened, and in this, obviously, it's a different universe, but in this, you don't get any reference to anybody outside of, like you said, the few name drops of Superman, Batman, which felt so nice because you didn't have to see anything going in
Yeah.
and know what was going on. You don't have to watch anything coming out after if you don't want. Like, this didn't set anything else up. This is a perfectly fine standalone movie, obviously outside of the end credit scene. But to me, if they never made another Blue Beetle movie, I think that they can hold their heads and say they made a decent movie that can hold up on its own and doesn't need to be part of a universe.
Yeah. And they also named dropped the Flash too in Central City. Well, that was pretty cool. Um, what I don't agree. I think we will see the Blue Beetle, like maybe not in
Oh,
a
we're definitely going
solo
to see him
movie,
again.
but maybe like you said in that TV show, like he could. I would like to see him make cameos and like build his way up to his own movie again. That would be pretty cool
Oh, yeah.
because I can see him definitely be part of a Justice League movie, or if not
They'll
Justice
definitely
League,
have him again for
if
sure.
not Justice League, a Young Justice movie, something like I can
Yeah.
see him be a part of a team. Um, Overall, it's a good movie. I want to talk about the end credits on the very last thing about this movie. Um, there was an end credits that kind of could set it up for a future movie. I
Yeah.
I didn't understand the reference to it because like this is a spoiler alert, but like it's setting up like the actual Blue Beetle, Jenny's dad is not dead. He's somewhere out there,
Mhm.
and that's like the only thing we hear about it because he's in a. I don't know if he's like maybe chats in a computer or something like that, or he's communicating through a computer, or what's the deal with that. But it's a setup for a future movie.
Yeah, no doubt.
There is a very end. Did you say to the very very end?
Fuck no, man. I tried to leave before the first end credit scene, and then I was like, "Ah, I gotta stay. I didn't
Dude,
see the
you did not
second
miss
one.
anything. I hated. I waited so like to the very end so much. Do you remember that cartoon that I think the grandma was watching in the living room? It was like a cheesy Mexican
Yeah.
cartoon. That was it was the same thing. It just showed a clip of that. And then George Lopez
Oh,
randomly going like, "I'm sexy." I was like, "What the fuck was that?" Like that was such a huge slap in the face for everyone. I was like, if you were going to set up for a future movie, that was the time to do it. Like you could have set up for
yeah.
like a Thanos type, like a dark side, like behind the curtain, like for 8 movies, and then finally come to reveal. They could have took that directly from Avengers, but
Yep.
no, like it was just a slap in the face. Like you knew people are waiting. Like it was so ridiculous.
Yeah, I had the Voyage of the Last Demeter started 5 minutes after
Uh,
the Blue Beetle ended. So I was like, we gotta go, man. I was like, we gotta get through these end credits now. I gotta leave.
I
And
thought you were gonna.
I stayed for that first one. I was like, it's fine.
I thought you were trying to avoid the dad and the son afterwards.
No, no. They left before the end credits even started. They were gone before the like final kiss.
What would you give the Blue Beetle rating 1 out of 10?
I would give it a soft 7.5.
That is very, very generous. Very generous.
Yes.
I
I
was
am very
thinking,
forgiving of superhero movies, but I also think that it's a soft 7.5. It's definitely not set in stone. But I do think I love the family dynamic. I thought that they built it so effortlessly, and there's a lot more passion than in a lot of superhero movies. Um, and also it's just fun. Like it was just a fun, if you shut your brain off for 2 hours, it's
yeah,
just fun to sit there and like watch things go boom. It's not, it's nothing spectacular. Like if that's a 7.5, then Endgame's like a fucking 10. You know what I mean?
I forgot to mention the quick fact, like the end credit, not the end credit scene, but like the end battle was in this giant layer. I don't even know where this layer was at, but a lot of the fights happening in this tunnel system below. I was like, what the fuck are those tunnel systems there for? Like, what are they connecting to? Like, they're just empty rooms. Like, what is it? Where are they
Yeah.
fighting at? What was the point of that whole
Yeah.
thing? So, anyways, I had a number in my head before we started this episode. I was gonna give it a 6 out of 10, but the more we talked about it, like I think I'm gonna give it a 5 out of 10, dude. Like I
Yeah.
know you said you would
I
have
mean,
watched it
that's
again
fair.
at home. I don't even know if I would do that. Like I might do it again, and, like if they make another one, like go back to this movie, reference it. But
Mhm.
other than that, like if no one shows up to watch this movie, honestly, and I hope I don't know. I'm hoping I still have hope for the DCEU universe, but I just it's hard for me to keep hope, honestly.
Oh yeah, I am hoping that with James Gunn and he actually gets his hands on the product and has more control over it. I think we'll see a much better DCEU where Blue Beetle will stand out as like probably the first one, but the worst one, because James Gunn really didn't have anything to do with it. He just sort of
Right.
was like, "This is a movie that's coming out, and now I'm the president of the studio, so here you go." And I think we'll see more of Blue Beetle, but I think it'll be in a toned down perspective until, like you said, he builds himself back up.
Yeah. We're talking about James Gunn. That's an easy transition to the next movie we're gonna talk about. We're gonna be talking about The Suicide Squad, which came out in 2021. Directed and I believe it was written by James Gunn too. Um,
Yes.
this movie, I told you when we picked it, like I haven't seen this movie, and there's like a couple of DC movies. Like I haven't seen the second Wonder Woman movie. I haven't seen this movie, just because like I feel like I've given up on DC sometimes, so I didn't really even pay attention. Like I don't think I've seen Birds of Prey even.
I
Um,
haven't seen Birds of Prey either.
this movie was written and directed by James Gunn, and this movie is about supervillains Harley Quinn, Bloodsport, Peacemaker, and the collection Nutty Cons at Rave Prison joined the super secret, super shady Task Force X as they dropped off at the remote enemy-infused island of Cordo Maltese. Maltese? I could say that wrong. Do you remember watching this when it first came out?
So I was strongly against anything DCEU for a very long time, mainly because they were so bad, in my opinion, that I was like, I'm just not watching these. And then one day, really, really, really bored. It had just come out on HBO Max, and I was like, I'll give it a chance. And immediately I was like, yeah, I'm glad I gave this a chance.
I think there was a lot of people react because I don't know my family, like my brothers, like they didn't watch until it came on HBO. So without
Yeah.
HBO, I feel like that was like a second chance because like a lot of people didn't want to waste their money go seeing it.
Mhm.
I know when it first came out, like everyone was super confused. Is this a continuation or is it a reboot? And I'm still kind of
Yep.
confused, honestly. Is it a continuation or a reboot of for the real one? Like they don't make any reference to it at all, but I guess they could technically be a sequel because it is the same Harley Quinn that was in the first one in this
Yep.
one. So I don't know. I'm still kind of confused about it. Because I think the only one is besides Harley Quinn is the one leading the team, the white guy.
Bloodsport or Bloodshot? Oh,
No,
Flag.
Flag. He's in this movie too. Kind of like almost like a different take on the character because he was more serious in the first one. This one he's kind of like not as the leader. He's kind of more along for the ride. It seemed like.
Yep.
So I don't know if he was trying to reboot the character. I remember watching the trailers for this movie. There's all kinds like there's what's his name Blog Borg, Pete Davidson, and Michael Rucker in the trailer. I was really excited to see this in the
Yeah.
movie. They all died within the first 5 minutes, like the Weasel. I was
Yeah.
like, why market them that heavily if we're like
Oh.
the most you see in the trailer is all that they were in the movie.
Hmm.
The very first character you see was Michael Rucker, and he looked like a badass, like just in the prison
Yep.
cell, like playing with a bouncy ball, like killing a innocent bird. And then you just see him like cowardly, like run away from the mission, and he gets his head blown up. And the whole first 5 minutes of this mission gone wrong, they all die immediately, besides like Flag and Harley Quinn. And you think that's the end of the mission. Like I thought like maybe it was a simulator or it was a dream or something like that. Like there's no way that can be end of it. But sure enough, that was the end of their story in this movie with the first 5 minutes. And coincidentally,
Mhm.
they sent a second team on the other side of the island, which is the team we're gonna be focusing on. And I was like, that was like kind of a slap in the face. Like, what the fuck? Where was the
It's a bait
point
and
then?
switch. Yeah.
Do you think this movie was better than the first one, the original one? I think that was like 20.
I've never seen the original one.
Really?
I refuse to watch it because I don't want to see Jared Leto fuck up Joker that bad.
Yeah, he was pretty bad in that. Harley Quinn, Margot Robbie. I mean, she's like the best part of both of those movies. She was
Oh,
great.
chef's kiss.
Yeah,
Astounding. I mean, she She's one of the reasons why I picked this. I picked it because James Gunn, head of the DC EU now, and mainly because the whole family component in that one and this one and Blue Beetle kind of had that in common, except in a different way. And honestly, because Margot Robbie, I wasn't on for the Barbie episode, and it killed me because I have been waiting all year for Barbie. And so I was like, I kind of want to talk about Margot Robbie somehow because
Yeah,
I love her. She's a fantastic actress, man.
yeah,
Babylon, she blew me away in Babylon, man. I
yeah,
mean, I was floored. She's
yeah.
amazing. So I wanted to watch it because of her.
Not a bad pick. She was not as involved in this one as she was in the first one. She was definitely like the
Mm-mm.
leader in the first one. I had in my notes here, like I almost felt like there was no leader in this one. It was kind of weird. Like you think Bloodsport was kind of the
I
leader
would
in some
agree.
parts, but then like I don't know, like there was no leadership in this movie. They were just kind of going along for all the ride. And part of the reason James Gunn was so successful with Guardians of the Galaxy, they have that family aspect, like you just mentioned to it. Like they're all codependent on one another. They feed off of one another. The comedy chemistry was there. I don't think this is good as the Guardians chemistry. Um, it's just I think part of the reason there was just too many characters like
Way too many characters. Oh
to have
yeah.
that family aspect. Yeah, I think there was just too many characters in this movie to like feel a connection. Like you have connections like individually, like with the Guardians of the Galaxy, like you have Drax and Mantis that like those two alone could probably get a spinoff. I didn't really get any
Mhm.
chemistry like that with anybody. And Peacemaker, played by John Cena, I this is before I seen the movie. He got that spinoff TV show
Yep.
on HBO. So in my mind, like, oh, he must have really popped in the movie. He must have been really fantastic. I was like, if he would have never got his own TV show, I think that would have been fine because like he didn't really bring anything cool to the movie. He was the same character as Bloodsport. They even referenced that. I was like, if he can get his own
Yeah.
TV show, why couldn't Bloodsport? Like they were kind of the same characters. Like he wasn't as funny as the show was in this
Mhm.
movie. So like, what's the point?
Only because Bloodsport, in this movie, just is not. He's not funny at all. He's more like the stoic. He's trying to be the stoic leader, like you said. There is no real defined leader because everybody at a certain point does take control of the group. But he's just not as funny. And I'm willing to bet Idris Elba was like not willing to do a TV show, and John Cena was.
That's probably 100% true. How did you feel about Idris Elba's performance in this one? Well, before that, he was a part of the Marvel universe for a while. He was in the Thor movies,
Yep, yep,
and
yep.
after a while, he started throwing hate on like those superhero movies because like I feel it's just too ridiculous doing that stuff. Like it's kind of a waste of talent, blah blah blah. But immediately after he's that statement, that's when he came out with that movie Cats. That just like was the most stupidest movie of all time. I thought.
And that movie, what's it called? I actually liked it because it was so stupid. I was like, this is so bad, so stupid. I actually like it. Like Beast or something, where he fist
Oh
fights a fucking lion. I was
yeah,
like, hey,
yeah,
champ, you were just shitting on all these superhero movies because they make no sense. And you're out here fist fighting a
yeah,
lion. Fuck off, man. What are you
yeah.
talking about?
I think he's a tremendous actor, but to come out with things like
Yeah,
that and
absolutely.
come out with movies like that, it's kind of contradicting. But he was good in this movie. I think he is a good action hero. So
Yep.
it doesn't surprise me that he did good in this movie. Comedy wise, like his sense of humor is kind of dry in this movie. Like his whole motive in this movie is to
Mhm.
keep his daughter safe, but they have a whole scene in the beginning where like they're at each other's throats. So he doesn't even like want to love his daughter. So I was like, what's like I didn't buy that you wanted to save your kid the whole time anyway.
I think he just didn't want her to get. I agree. I don't think he wants to be a part of her life. He even made that very clear. But I also don't think he wants to see her get killed. And if she goes to that prison, that little girl is getting tortured for sure. Because Harley Quinn, people like Harley Quinn and worse are in there, and you're sending a 16-year-old girl in there. I mean, that's horrendous.
And I'm glad you brought up Harley Quinn because I want to talk about her. She kind of, well, maybe not her, but like Margot Robbie kind of changed the character a little bit. Like I wouldn't even call her a villain anymore at this point. She's kind of like maybe an anti-hero, if anything. Like
Anti-hero
she,
for
she
sure.
still
Yep.
wants to do her own thing, but like she also has like kind of morals a little bit, and you see that a lot in this movie because there's the point where she gets like almost like a new romantic partner, but she kills him because like, oh yeah, you just want to hurt kids. So she's like, fuck that. And she
You're a
kills him
dirtbag, so I'm gonna
instantly.
kill you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anti-hero is definitely the word because that scene alone, and then also taking the javelin when she's not really like trying to like she doesn't really know why she's taking the javelin, but she does. And also the scene where Idris Elba's like, "We're not going to upload this video," and she has the moral compass that's like, "We should upload this
Yeah.
video." to take down the team Task Force X or whatever the fuck they're called.
But I feel like Margot Robbie and like has a lot of credit to do like with changing her dynamic of the character. I don't know if you've seen that animated cartoon on not not
I have
Netflix,
not.
HBO, Harley Quinn. I've seen it and it's more kind of leaning towards this like same way anti-hero. Like she has morals. I think right now in the story, actually, she's like part of the bad family. But
What? Okay,
in
Jesus.
the last Suicide Squad, that's when she really changed her look. She went from like that red and black jumpsuit to like, you know, wearing like that daddy's little girl t-shirt and like carrying the baseball bat and had the
Hmm.
pigtails. Iconic look. She set that look off. Like it changed the whole character altogether. And it was like the #1 costume that year. I remember. This one, she's like in a
Hmm.
red dress. Like I thought she was gonna change back eventually. She didn't have her iconic baseball bat. Like
No.
why it's like you took all the good things about that character and you kind of like scrapped it a little bit in this movie. Like I get it's a change of like she's not the same person that we'd seen last time, maybe, but I don't know. I feel like I missed the old look in this movie.
I feel like the only reason they did that, if I had to guess, is because it was more like a soft reboot where they don't really want to explicitly say it's a reboot, but they also don't want to say that this isn't a sequel. So like let the audience make up their mind. So I feel like they only changed little things like that to specifically make sure people knew this was a different type of movie. It was a different movie altogether, but potentially could be a follow up. Like nobody, I couldn't tell you if this is a reboot or a sequel to that 20 was it 2017 2019 or whatever
Something like that.
version. But I think those little tiny changes, like Flag's character, Harley Quinn, are specifically done just to throw you off a little bit.
I remember watching the first one, but I can't remember how it ended too. So I was kind of confused about that. Um, what's her name? The like not the person behind everything.
Viola Davis.
Viola Davis's character. I hated her in the first one, but then I started like watching Woman King and her in the movie Air. Like, oh shit, I forgot how great of an actress she really is. So then when I
Mm-hmm.
seen her, I was kind of excited a little bit. She did have a little bit more like monologue sequences in this movie. Like she was kind of
Yeah.
more instead of just behind the screen the whole time. She was kind of more. We see more of her physically. But then like you have a
Mm-hmm.
whole side story where like the people in her office had their own moral compass too, and they end up taking her out.
Yeah, I
So I'm
didn't like
sure,
that.
yeah, because like they still have, they're gonna have those bombs in their head. She's gonna wake up eventually and like probably fucking kill them
Right. Right.
and kill all the
Also
people who,
fire all of you.
yeah.
Yeah, like what are you doing?
And then of course, we see her character again at the end of Black Adam. So, I mean, I think ultimately it
Oh,
was the
do
right.
we actually?
Yeah, you didn't see that?
What happens at the end of Black Adam? Fuck no, I didn't watch Black Adam. Get out of here with
Really?
that shit.
At the very end, The Rock
No.
is like, her character is in the movie because he wanted to take her in prison as a prisoner. But she's like, all right, like at the end of the movie, he saves the day. So he's like, all right, you don't want to leave the city, fine, but this is your jail. And if you ever want to leave, like we have people to take care of you. And The Rock's like, well, send anyone you got. Like, I'm not afraid of anyone on this planet. It's like, well, we have people outside this planet. Well, this is like a hologram talking to her, right? And then Ash is talking mid sentence, like Black Adam like destroys a hologram, but then you see Superman Henry Cavill pop out,
Oh no shit.
raises a million questions because like how the fuck are those two working together and stuff like that. Like Henry Cavill was rumored to be done with the character at that point.
Right.
It was stupid. So I mean, James Gunn made the right decision to ultimately just restart from the beginning.
Yeah.
If it was up to me, I prefer them to stop pumping out material for like
Yep.
the next 2 or 3 years and just focus on like movies like Robert Patterson's Batman and stuff like that. The Joker, Joaquin Phoenix.
Regroup.
Just
Exactly.
just
Yep.
like I'm fine with just watching those as my material. Like that's totally cool. Because the Robert Patterson's Batman is getting like 5 spin-offs, like with the TV shows and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then this one, like it's gonna be the same thing. You just mentioned like they listed off like 3 or 4 shows announced. There's gonna be 5 or 6 movies that they already announced. Now everything is gonna be put on hold because of all the strikes going on, but
Right.
you're gonna run into the same problem again. You're pumping out material. You're gonna try to connect everything all at the end or drop hints. I was like, what if something happens like where like the Black Adam, like the Superman thing, like you put this in the movie and it doesn't pay off. Like what you're just wasting everyone's time. You get everyone's hopes up and you're just gonna disappoint
Mm-hmm.
everybody. Now this movie doesn't really set up for a lot of future movies. But there is potential for spin-off. Well, obviously you did get a spin-off with Peacemaker. I think they're gonna still continue making
Right.
that show. I could be wrong.
I believe so. Yeah.
He was John Cena, he was good in this movie. I want to talk about King Shark a little bit because he is in the comics a lot. Not really as like a serious villain, kind of more like a henchman kind of thing. Like I feel
Yeah.
like they portrayed his character like as a dumb character, which is exactly who he is in the movie. He's a very simple man.
Yeah.
And he's voiced by Sylvester Stallone. And I was reading the interview with him, like James Gunn like probably took like 2 seconds to convince him to do that role. He's like, "Hey, I got this project I'm doing. It's not gonna take much of your time." And he's like, he stopped him right there. I was like, "Anything for you, brother." So that was,
I'm in.
yeah, that was pretty cool. Because his dialogue, he probably took him like 2 hours to record everything, if that.
Absolutely.
There's also another character where she controls rats. I was like, that was the rats ended up being the ones that saved the day at the end. I was like, what is this? She's like, "This city doesn't belong to you." Talking about the big villain. I was like, "This city doesn't belong to you. It
It
belongs to
belongs to
us."
them.
And it was like a million rats coming, and
Yeah.
that was kind of a cheesy line. The big villain in this movie was a giant starfish, which in the comics is famous
Mhm.
because that was the first villain that brought all the Justice League together.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, like you're fighting a giant starfish, dude. Like
A
what?
giant starfish. Exactly. It's so absurd. It's so absurd, man.
Yeah, and this giant starfish can mind control people and stuff like that. I don't know. It was kind of
It's so
ridiculous.
silly.
Yeah,
It's so silly. I love it. It's just
but the
so
same,
absurd.
but that just tells you, like, yeah, you gotta remember this movie's called Suicide Squad. It's about sending people to do these jobs that no one else wants to do. Like, I'm sure Superman and them were to take care of it, but like they don't
Yeah.
want to, like they don't gotta worry about it. And the whole reason they caught
Yeah.
on to it, like there were scientists trying to take its power and trying to mind control people of it, but obviously it was too strong for them, ended up breaking out. I was looking forward to the soundtrack in this movie because obviously James Gunn has a history for good soundtracks, and it was just okay. There's a couple songs that stood out to me, but nothing groundbreaking. Like not really cool songs that they were fighting to, I should say.
Mhm.
Sola was in there with Jesse Reyes. That was probably my favorite song of the whole movie because I like that song. That was the scene where they're on the bus and he was talking about his
Yep.
daughter. That was
Yep.
probably one of my favorite scenes just because of that song alone. Um, the chemistry was overall better than I thought it was going to be. It was pretty decent actually. I liked it a lot.
For a bunch of slapstick characters, they got like they all got into their characters. They had bare minimum to go on with them, and they all, I think, did a good job of becoming them. And then the chemistry between them was solid. It was a lot better actually than I think the chemistry in Blue Beetle, at least.
I 100% agree with that. The writing in this movie was pretty good. The directing style, James Gunn, I was very shocked to see like the darker actual, like not just like dark in tone, but like actual physically darker in the scenes. Like there's some points where I'm watching on my
Violence.
TV.
Oh,
No, look on my TV. Like, I feel like I had to turn my brightness up a little bit to see what the hell was going on.
yeah.
But yeah, the darker
Yeah.
tone
When
was
they're
the
like in the jungle in the middle of the night and you can't see anything, and you're like, what is going on in this scene?
exactly. So
Mm-hmm.
I was kind of like thrown back by James Gunn decided to choose something like that. I'm hoping he brings some of the Guardians aspects to it. Like Guardians was not a dark movie at all, and I kind of would like to see that in the
No.
future movies, like DC movies, because like yeah, they meet Superman too. I'm not a fan of Zack Snyder actually. I could say that out loud because I've said that before. I'm not a fan of his directing style. Like he's like Justice League. Everyone praises Snyder cut Justice League. I really didn't care for it too much. Like everyone loved it so much. I just don't want to see this darkness anymore. Like not the tone, but like
Mhm.
physically dark, like the screen.
Physically dark, yeah.
Like I'm like put on the filter or something, dude.
Give me some light. I need to see what's going on. I don't feel like I'm left out, like missing
Exactly.
some important scene.
And I'm really hoping James Gunn's continue the tradition by killing the soundtrack and have all these music.
Yeah.
Um, what are your expectations for the new Superman movie? Have you been hearing all the hype of the casting list? There's like supposed to be cameos from Green Lantern, Hawk Girl. I forgot who else. But how
I
do you feel
did see
about
that.
how are you feeling about that stuff so far?
I just don't want them to go too hard on it.
Yeah.
Let it just, if this is how you want to start the series or your universe, you have to take notes from the MCU. Iron Man was just Iron Man. You know what I
Someone
mean?
someone
I think if you're
complained
gonna have a superhero movie, what'd someone say?
someone complained to James Gunn about like all these characters wanted to make a cameo. I was like, are you too worried that these movies are gonna out that these characters are gonna outshine Superman and it's gonna be like a mini Justice League movie? He's like, no, like he's talking about he's like he brought the movie 40-Year-Old Virgin. I'm like, yeah, there's a ton of good iconic characters in there. Like, do you think Steve Carell didn't get enough screen time? I was like, yeah, that's a good point, I guess. He's comparing it to the 40-Year-Old Virgin. This is
Oh,
hilarious.
God, what? I
Gun
didn't
is
see that.
hilarious.
That's a wild comparison to me.
Yeah, yeah. It's this movie. I don't want to get too off track, but to go back to Suicide Squad, it was a good watch. I really enjoyed seeing my favorite character Harley Quinn come back.
Mm-hmm.
She has a good TV show out right now, the Harley Quinn show. It's more like a raunchy comfort comedy show, I would say.
Yeah.
Peacemaker, I've seen clips of it. I haven't seen the whole thing, but it looks very funny. Ultimately, did they make the right decision to scrap these movies? I don't know if I would want another Suicide Squad movie.
Yeah, I don't care if they ever do. This is it's a fun one-off. It's fun for what it was, but if you keep making them, it loses its fun.
And it's exactly like I never even heard of Suicide Squad before the first movie came out too. So it was kind of interesting to get introduced to
Mm-hmm.
these new people. I heard a lot of the characters, but I never knew like they were brought together like this. It's a very unique kind of take
Right.
on it. Like, yeah, there's some missions like where its heroes can't go to, and what are you gonna do that? Like, well, you're gonna force these characters to do it. But
Yeah.
yeah.
I like the concept of it for sure.
What would you rate the Suicide Squad 1 out of 10?
1 out of 10. This is like a solid. I feel like an idiot for saying the same score for both movies, but 7.5 for me out of 10 on this.
I think I would agree with you on this one, 7.5. Yeah, they could have
Yeah.
spent some spots better a little bit, but overall it was pretty good, decent.
I kind of forgot how the middle portion of this movie, basically from the time they get into the city and go undercover until they get into Jotunheim, it's just I zoned out for like the 30 minutes that they're doing all that. I was like, it finally they got to Jotunheim, and I was like, oh shit, right, what's happening again? I
Yeah,
just
yeah.
watched the whole thing, and my mind was just wandering during that. It meandered a little too long in those spots, but I think the cast has such great chemistry, and the comedy works when the comedy works. They don't try to throw as many jokes at you as they do in the Guardians movies, which is nice. They throw quite a bit of joke, quite a few jokes at you, but they land because it's not just like joke after joke after joke after joke, which is
Well,
what most superhero movies have become recently.
you got to think too the circumstances too. Like there's a legit bomb in the back of your head too. I don't know how many jokes I'll be cracking
Yeah,
too. You know?
exactly. Yeah, no, I loved that. I loved the more tame jokes, and I love the violence. I know this is weird to say, but seeing James Gunn get to just unleash on these violent scenes is nice because he can't do that in Marvel. They just don't allow that. It's a Disney corporation. But in this, we literally saw Pete Davidson's face blow off and him fall
Yeah.
over, and they didn't pan away from it. I loved it. I loved it.
It was a pretty decent watch. Would I watch it again? I probably not anytime soon, but eventually I would watch it again once I forget like
Yeah.
some stuff that happened into it. And I can experience it again. Um, Thanks for coming on, Kyle. I got one more question for you before we get off the subject.
Mm-hmm.
How it goes. Like I always ask my guests, like, what other movies are coming out this year that you're expecting that you want to see, excited to see?
Oh man. I still haven't seen Oppenheimer, so I'm gonna cheat and say that.
Shut up! You're
No, I haven't
a
seen it, man.
legit movie reviewer podcast host, and you have not seen Oppenheimer, the biggest
No,
movie.
no.
Well, at Barbie is the biggest movie of the summer, but it's the second biggest movie of the summer.
Yeah, what happened was we started moving in July. We had to
Yeah,
pack everything up and come to Maine for a few weeks and then come to New Hampshire. And so what happened was I actually had to take 4 weeks off from going to the movies, and it was the week Barbie and or the week before Barbie and Oppenheimer were coming out.
that's
And
right. Because I
so
I forgot people didn't know you were supposed to be on for Barbie too, but then it was in
yes,
the time period.
yeah, so I actually was away from I recorded a bunch of episodes before we went camping. So we took a vacation for 2 weeks in Maine, went camping. So I just had no chance to see any movies. So I recorded a bunch of episodes beforehand,
Yeah.
put those out, and I mean, I was itching to go back to the movies, and finally Cass was like, "We can go see one movie. Which would you rather see, Barbie or Oppenheimer?" And I did pick Barbie
uh,
because I picked Barbie because one, it was the most anticipated movie of the year for me, but two, mainly because I didn't have 3 hours to kill. We were on a very tight schedule, and so 2 hours was cutting it. So we did that, and then went camping again. So I haven't seen it yet, and then I just for the first time went to go to the movies yesterday, and Oppenheimer just the time frame to see Blue Beetle and Oppenheimer in the same day just was not going to pan out.
I think Barbie just became like the Warner Brothers biggest profit movie so far to date. Which is
Yes,
wild.
it just passed The Dark Knight.
Which is wild. Um,
What about
there's
you?
so
What
many.
movie are you most anticipated for?
I'm really excited for to seeing Gran Turismo like coming out next week. I'm gonna see that.
Yep.
There's a lot of horror movies coming out. I'm such a big chicken shit, honestly. Like I don't
Mm.
know if you heard Talk to Me.
Oh,
You heard Talk to Me last week. I really forced myself to watch that one. But then like you have the
yeah.
Nun 2 coming out. You have freaking Exorcist. I wasn't gonna do the Exorcist, honestly. I was gonna skip it, but someone asked me to come on for that movie. I was like, fuck, now I gotta watch that movie.
No, I love it, man. I love
Yeah.
horror movies. Horror is my favorite genre,
There's a couple
hands down.
handful.
I
There's a
watch
good
horror
movie.
movies all the time.
Quick review. What did you think of Talk to Me last episode?
I haven't seen Talk
Oh
to
my
Me, brother.
goodness. It
I
was a good
know,
one.
I
It was a good
know.
one. I liked it because it was such a unique take on like it was a brand new idea. We haven't seen nothing like that
Yeah,
before. So it was pretty cool for that.
that's why I'm so excited, man. All of my friends have hit me up because all my friends know I'm a huge horror movie buff, and I've had a bunch of my friends be like, "Oh man, did you watch it? How'd you like it?" And I was like, "I haven't seen it, man. I haven't. I've seen one movie in the last month." So, and again, actually, there's no movie theater within 2 hours playing
That
it
sucks.
anywhere near me. So,
That
yeah, because
sucks.
I looked, man, I was like, I will drive 2 fucking hours to watch this movie, and there's not a single movie theater playing it near me.
Yeah. Other than that, I'm excited for Dune 2. There's also some of the
Yep,
movies
Dune
I
too.
wanted to see watched got pushed back, like the News and Damn movie that got pushed back to the spring.
Yep.
There's no one other movie, can't remember what it was. But I'm actually looking forward to Captain Marvel a little bit more than it was the first one at least. So
Really?
yeah, and it's gonna be the last superhero movie of the year too. So
Is
I'm
that
actually
why?
trying.
Is like,
I mean, maybe because like what do we have? Like, we
mhm,
had Guardians and we had Ant-Man.
Ant-Man.
Ant-Man was okay. Actually, Loki with Loki coming out too, I'm kind of getting more excited with the Marvel universe.
Yeah, Loki's gonna help shape stuff up, I think.
Yeah,
Trim the
well,
fat a little bit.
Deadpool 2 is like gonna be a big one next year. Um, Other than that, like I mean, I don't know, I can't think of, I don't know if Wonka's coming out this year or not, but that looks interesting. Good
Mhm.
or bad, I don't know yet.
Yeah, I was gonna say it looks interesting is the keyword. I don't know if I'm gonna like that or not. I'm definitely gonna go watch it.
Yeah,
But it just I also hate this is I am can't believe I'm about to say this. I hate Willy Wonka or Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
really,
Every incarnation of it, I can't stand it. I didn't like the original. I didn't like the Johnny Depp one.
really.
The Johnny Depp one gave me nightmares, and the original one I just didn't like. I have never liked them. My mom used to be like, "Come on, let's sit down and watch these movies. I'm gonna make you like them," and I would watch them, and I'd be like, "It's still shit. I still don't like it."
I don't think you're just because of that fact alone, you're probably not gonna like this new one. Like,
Yeah,
regardless what
probably not.
Timothy Chalamet does, like I don't think you're gonna like it. Well, thanks for coming on, Kyle. Remind everyone when your podcast usually comes out.
Yeah, so it's called Date Night with Ky and Kas. It's literally as it sounds. My girlfriend and I watch a movie and we talk about it, have ourselves a little date night, and those come out on Friday mornings.
And it's usually just not like older, I mean newer movies. You guys talk about any movie, like older movies too, right?
Yep.
All right.
So it started with just the new movies, 2023 releases, because we'd go to the theater, we'd make a night out of it. With the writer's strike and the actor's strike, we haven't
Slowing
done
down.
anything that's been released after July. So we've just been doing more our older movies, and so that's what we're gonna stick with for now.
Nice. And I'm gonna tag you guys obviously in this movie, but yeah, the chemistry between you guys are pretty good in that movie episode. And it's just real, like a lot of people go see with their spouses and stuff like that, and that's what you do after a movie, you just talk
Yeah,
about it. So I like the idea a lot.
yeah,
And then maybe next time, see if both of you guys will come on the podcast. That'll be pretty cool.
hell yeah, hell yeah.
Uh,
We'd be down, I'm sure.
Other than that, I think we have everything go. I'm gonna tag you in all your socials too on our Instagram. You're on Threads
Right
too
on.
now. I'm kind of hesitant on getting on Threads.
Oh, I haven't logged in since I actually got on Threads. I was like, yeah, fuck this, I'm
The
good.
biggest
I
reason why I
am
don't,
all set.
I heard you can't delete Threads without actually deleting your whole Instagram account. That's the whole reason I don't do it.
I didn't know that, and that makes me feel like an idiot for not knowing that, because I don't want it anymore. I don't go on there. It's pointless. It's useless to me. I didn't like Twitter, so I don't know why I was thinking I'd like Threads.
Yeah, I have a Twitter account for this podcast too that I don't really use. But for
Yeah.
people listening, following the podcast, I am on YouTube now. I posted the last episode on YouTube. And gonna work on
Mhm.
putting this one out there too. But thank you for everyone listening. I think next episode is the Gran Turismo movie. I actually finally gonna get to go watch and talk about it. So everyone's
Hell
stay
yeah.
tuned for next week. I do have a first time guest coming on that one too, so I'm excited about it. Um, thanks Kyle again for coming on. Thanks for everyone listening.
Absolutely, brother.
Stay tuned next week where I'll be saving you a seat.